Welcome to the collection of the wildest and craziest AITA Reddit stories of all time. From wild betrayals to shocking twists, these tales will leave you questioning who is really in the wrong. Let's dive in together. The first story for this collection is from Cockroach Anxious 5342. AITA, for telling my dad and extended family I want to be more than dad's mistake he made after his wife died. I, 18M, was raised by my dad on his own. My mom didn't want to raise me and she still doesn't want a relationship, and yes, I reached out to find out. Her family doesn't even care. My dad was widowed for about 2 years when he and my mom had a fling, and I was the result. My dad had 2 kids from his marriage. They were 11 and 9 when I was born, and they hated the situation. I get it. They'd only lost their mom 3-ish years before. But they took it out on me. They always said I was a mistake dad made, and that they couldn't believe he'd have a kid with someone who wasn't their mom. The oldest expressed a lot of disgust toward me for my existence. I was 9 the last time I had regular contact with them. Not because they had moved out 2 years prior to that, but they stopped coming around as much. But they never softened toward me, either of them. The younger of the 2 didn't express as much disgust directly about me but at the situation overall, and they still wanted me to know they saw me as a mistake and something that should never have happened. I was repeatedly told I would never be their sibling, that they had each other and dad might not want me to be raped and beaten in foster care, but they sure as hell didn't care. And that if dad died, I would be going there, and to them it didn't matter what happened to me. My dad knew how things were between me and his older kids. I always got the sense that even though he raised me and he provided for me the same as his older kids, that maybe he felt the same way as them. That he regretted that I existed. He never dated again. He still wears his wedding ring, or maybe started wearing it again. And there were photos of his wife all over the house. Their wedding photos and family photos. I couldn't look at them or my half-siblings would get all pissy and they'd say my existence was disrespecting their mom's memory and I didn't deserve to look at her. My dad would tell me how much he loved and missed her and how he wished he could have made an even bigger family with her. That without her things felt wrong. Which maybe he wasn't talking about me exactly, but given the sentiment, I don't think I'm that wrong. But he let me do any activities I wanted, and on the outside I'm sure he looked like an amazing dad by keeping up with my school and getting me help when I struggled, and including me even when his other kids didn't want me included. The emotional stuff is where I think the biggest problem came. And for such a long time I felt like a mistake. My whole being felt like I was just the mistake dad made after his wife died. Then I started dating my girlfriend 2 years ago and her family were super amazing to me. They took an interest in me and wanted to know about my family life. One of her siblings knew my half-siblings and admitted they never knew they had a younger sibling, and I confided in my girlfriend's family and they were disgusted, and her parents have spent over a year telling me over and over that I deserved better and never deserved to be told and treated like I'm a mistake, that dad's actions are not my fault. It's been nice and gave me a boost of confidence when I needed it. My girlfriend has met dad and she's picked up on how different he is with me versus my half-siblings and how he does act like he regrets having me. Like me, she can see he provided for me physically, but she said it felt so cold. And I guess that's how I felt. I turned 18 a couple of months ago and I moved in with my girlfriend and her family so I could finish high school somewhere less cold. Because it was so close to Christmas when I moved in, it was a controversial move. My extended family told me leaving dad before Christmas to have an empty nest was cold, and when I chose to spend Christmas with my girlfriend and her family, my extended family accused me of lacking appreciation for everything my real family had done for me. My dad didn't say anything until a week ago when he asked me why I was arguing with his family. He told me he didn't think I should disrespect my grandparents or aunts and uncles like that. I ended up asking to see them all in one place, and I went to my grandparents' house on Friday where I basically opened up about everything and told them I was tired of being made feel like a mistake. I said I want to be more than my dad's mistake after his wife died, and my girlfriend and her family give me that. They treat me like I'm more than that. The response: my dad's allowed to grieve, and he never said anything like that to me. I was also told I should know better than to take the words of grieving children to heart. When I pointed out they're adults now and still hold those feelings, I was told that wasn't what they meant and I should know that. There's a lot of general unhappiness about what I said, and I know they think badly of me for speaking up about what I did. AITA for it. OP is not an AH. He expressed his feelings honestly, seeking validation and respect. While the timing could have been better, It's important for him to stand up for themselves. His actions was motivated by years of emotional neglect. So I would rate OP's half-siblings 2.5, OP's father 2, and OP 0 out of 5 on the scale. Let's now jump on to the next story from past_succotash_5019. AITA for deciding not to defend myself when my cousin accused me of having an affair with her husband? For some context, I, 31F, moved to a new state away from my immediately family where my extended family lives about 3 years ago. I moved into my cousin's, 38F, neighborhood to at least be close to family. I will call her K. Over the years, I've spent a lot of time with them and their 3 young kids, ages 8, 10, 11. I love having the kids over for sleepovers and we also watch each other's pets on vacations. I've even babysat in the middle of the night before when Kay needed to go to the hospital. I'm always there if they need anything. Their family always takes an annual trip in February to the mountains. Every year I've house-sat and watched their dog during this time. Last year, I offered to ride with them to the airport and drive their car back to the house so that they wouldn't have to leave the car in the airport parking garage. When I was leaving the airport, I had to connect to Bluetooth for GPS directions since there was no cord. Late January of this year, she sends me a bunch of texts saying how annoying it is that my name keeps popping up on his Bluetooth and hers never does. She was asking if I drove his car, etc. I simply said it was from the one time I drove the car to the airport last year and that you just have to go in and delete my name. She kept reiterating that it was a year ago, but if anyone knows anything about Bluetooth, it doesn't just go away, you have to delete it. Shortly after, I get a text from her husband. Mind you, the only time him and I have ever texted was during last year's mountain trip when he let me know the AC repairman was coming by to estimate. And with Kay included in the group text, he says, "My wife thinks you and I are having an affair. Can you please explain to your cousin that you and I have never crossed paths without her? That your name popping up on my truck dash could be that you've hooked up to my truck CarPlay. I'm done getting heat here. This is embarrassing. This is laughable." I respond with, "Oh wow. It was the one time I drove the truck from the airport after dropping you guys. I connected to Bluetooth." Which is the same thing I had just explained to Kay. Now, normally I would have hopped right into my people-pleasing ways, trying to make everything okay and make sure she definitely believes that that is not the truth. But after a lot of therapy and healing, I actually have no desire to defend myself. I was supposed to watch her dog during their annual trip this year, however. After this conversation she has completely stopped speaking to me, found other accommodations, and her kids went from calling me all the time to come over to not calling me at all, which is honestly the most depressing part for me. The advice that I keep getting is that I need to talk to her and make things right, but, as most people pleasers can relate, I am so tired of being a friend to everyone and no one being a friend to me. I did absolutely nothing wrong and now I feel completely abandoned by them. Why am I always the one to have to make things right when I was accused of something so incredibly offensive? Shouldn't she be the one to make things right? So, am I the Edit. I really appreciate the comments and have taken all feedback into consideration. After reading, I agree that it was important I try again to clear my name, and after the comments it's good to know that that won't come off as overly defensive. I've sent the following text and it's officially in her hands. "Hi Kay. I'm reaching out in hopes that we can resolve what's happened. I explained to both you and husband exactly what happened with the Bluetooth. I've done nothing but be there for you and your family, and it's extremely offensive that you would think so low of me to believe that I would ever do something like have an affair with your husband. Let me know if you'd like to talk about it because we are family after all. I've looked up to you my entire life and this all honestly breaks my heart. OP is not an She didn't do anything wrong and chose not to defend themselves out of self-preservation after therapy and healing. It's understandable not to want to engage further, especially when the accusations was baseless and hurtful. So I would rate OP's cousin 2.5, and OP 0 out of 5 on the scale. Let's now move on to the last story from cheap-level-9671. AITA for telling my children's stepmother to fuck off? I, 30, dated Hank, 33, for 4.5 years and we had 2 kids together who are now 8 and 6. We broke up when our kids were 2 months and 21 months old. Within a month Hank was back with his ex Michelle, 33. Michelle was his high school sweetheart and best friends with one of Hank's sisters. Hank's family had been sad when they broke up and name-dropped Michelle a lot while I was with him. Sometimes they even invited her over when we were there. I was so dumb to stay with him, but I really loved him. When Hank and Michelle got back together, Hank was very hostile toward me. Within 5 months they were engaged, and they wanted me to sign over my rights to the kids so Michelle could adopt them and they could be raised as their kids. Michelle told me nobody liked that they were mine, and they would never be accepted into the wider family if I was still in the picture. Hank also made the claim that it was better for the kids to have a stable home and to be accepted. But like I pointed out, then once he and Michelle had kids, would they really be treated like theirs even if I did entertain the idea, which I would never? They said yes, but I never believed them, or Michelle specifically. Unfortunately, my kids are treated differently because they're mine. For a while there was an effort made to alienate them. Hank lost some parenting time with them for 16 months, but once the alienation was addressed in parenting classes and therapy, the judge decided it would be okay to give him back shared custody. I have documented proof that my kids are treated as lesser and get treated badly by Hank's family and by Michelle, but custody is still 50-50 and I can't get more time with them. The kids are so sad going to their dads. I have them in therapy, and the therapist has been wonderful and has advocated for me to have more custody too, but the judge said 50-50 was in their best interest. Hank has been really difficult to communicate with, and one of our kids has a medical condition that requires hospital and doctor's appointments frequently, as well as a learning disability which requires cooperation. I also have Michelle sending me photos of Hank's family's gatherings where my kids are left out. I wanted to block her, but I was told not to because if my kids are left with her while Hank's working and something happens, it won't look good if I missed that kind of message. So, I save everything, but I don't reply. She has sent 2 medical updates before, so I see why it wouldn't look good in the judge's eyes, but it's hard to have those sent. And yes, they were used in court and still didn't change anything. I try to avoid Hank and Michelle as much as possible and Hank's family. But a few weeks ago, Hank told me he wanted a 16-week break from child support, which he pays because he makes significantly more than I do, because they were saving for a family Disney trip for him, Michelle, and their 2 little ones. I refused to let non-payments go, which they didn't like, clearly. But Michelle attempted to fight me on this by showing up at my house while the kids were at school, which interrupted me working. She was ready to fight, and she was yelling about how selfish I am and how I shouldn't be getting any support for the kids when they made a good offer to let her raise them. She had more to say, but I just told her to f*** off and I shut the door in her face. Michelle and Hank have been relentless in texting me since. I spoke to my lawyer, who said I didn't have anything to worry about with their threats of court. I said nothing in front of the kids, and she showed up at my house to yell at me. I also had proof of her behaving far worse and saying far worse to me. So, I'm not worried. But AITA for saying f*** off to her instead of just shutting the door in her face? OP is not an AH. Michelle's behavior was inappropriate, and OP was justified in standing up for herself after being harassed. While the language used may have been harsh, it was a response to ongoing mistreatment and emotional distress. So, I would rate Michelle 2.5, and OP 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. What do the Mac Reddit fans think? Is the OP an AH or not? Let me know in the comments section below. If you like the stories I brought you, just hit the like button, share them as much as you can, and don't forget to subscribe to Mac Reddit for a daily dose. Bye bye, see you tomorrow with some more spicy fries.